Um, Last session we discussed about object type. Technically, we learned about two important data types actually. In reference types, we learned about what is an array, another one object. Yesterday we discussed about what is an object and how do we configure object. So what are the various options about objects? So object type we discussed. That means we learned about object data type. What is an object data type and how do we deal with that? Right. Now, after understanding array and object type, one more important we need to know is about array of objects. Array of objects. And technically, array of objects is representing actually data. We generally call this as a JSON type. Actually. JSON type is a JavaScript object notation. JavaScript object notation. JSON is JavaScript object notation. That means we learned about array and object. Technically, array is initialized in the memory with square brace. Object is initialized in flower brace. Now, array of objects, so which is actually JSON type. So how we can configure an array of objects? Actual JSON in detail we will learn in a separate concept in our Angular. But in data types, actually you should know that JSON is a format. Is a format used to represent data. That means in our web applications, client side, data is represented in a JSON format. Actually, the data usually comes from database. And in database, data is present in tables. That data we have to interact. So we have to use the data client side. Then that we can manage in a format. So that is we call as JSON. So how we can use this JSON formatted data? That means, for example, so we have some data. Suppose we have database table. We have some database table. Usually database table contains some details like name and price. And in that we have some PV and some price. And like mobile and some price. Now, these details need to be used in any client-side application. Now this data is presented to client in a format, and we generally call that format as JSON, in a JSON format. And the JSON formatted data usually looks like this. That means technically JSON formatted data, that means it is an array. It is an array, and every record is defined as an object. That means it is an array of objects. Every record is defined as an object. Every record is defined as an object. And in the first object, we have property. One is name and a colon. Another one, price. So name and its type. So what is the value you want to configure in it? Another one is price, and what the value you want to define the type. Similarly, second object is defined in the flower brace here, and here we need to configure the name and what is the type, string type, and the price, and what is the type, number type. So that's how we configure. Now this is how data is represented. Previously we learned about array separate and object separate, and now we have array of objects. And of course you know how to access this now. For example, the name for this is products, and how we can access every product individually. To access every product individually, so this product and this product, that means these two are stored in an array. And in order to access this, usually we know that this is at the property 0 and this is at the property 1. And how we can access mobile price. In order to access mobile price, then we need to define like this. The object collection is products. The collection is products, and at index number, that is 1, that is property. At that property, we have an object. That object have two members. So one is name, another one price. So the members of any object are invoked by using dot and name. It is going to access the product name. Similarly, products of 1 dot price, it is going to access the second product name and price. This is how generally how we configure the JSON type data. Later in Angular, whenever we have to deal with complex data, the data is presented in this format. So JSON is a format used to represent data, and what is advantage is it is native to every browser, right? And it can be stored offline. It can be stored offline, and it is cross-platform. That's the reason whenever we need to deal with the data, we need to use an array of objects, JSON type. That means the syntax will be like this.